1 trillion Longguo yuan and 10,000 combat power. Which one would you choose? I was scrolling through Hot Girl live streams when two options suddenly popped up on my screen. On the left was 1 trillion Longguo yuan. On the right was 10,000 combat power from Dragon Ball. I frowned a little and looked at the options in front of me and spoke slowly. What does that even mean exactly? What level is 10,000 combat power in the real world? Can it block bullets? Bullets won't pose any threat to the host at all. What about missiles? Missiles are useless too. Easy peasy. I chose option B without any hesitation. I'm literally invincible now. Why would I care about that 1 trillion? As the blue panel in front of me disappeared, I felt like the whole world had changed. I stood up and was about to walk forward when I heard a crack. The wooden floor under my feet suddenly cracked. I looked down and saw my feet were sunk into the wooden floor. Cracks spread out like a spider web. I was stunned. I tried to pull my feet out. I used a little bit of force and lost my balance instantly. I panicked and grabbed the table next to me, trying to steady myself. The solid wood tabletop had a clear palm print on it where I pressed. Right after that, the table legs couldn't handle the weight, and the whole table collapsed. The keyboard, Coke cans, and all stuff scattered all over the floor. I stood in the middle of the mess, with my hands still in the position of holding the table, stunned with a blank face. Just when I was still zoning out, a phone call came in. I took out my phone, swiped the answer button lightly with my finger, and put it to my ear. Hey, Dad, what's up? Xiaofi, something bad happened. It's a huge disaster. Dad, what's wrong? Calm down, tell me what happened. It's your little sister, Xiaoying. Didn't she go on a trip to Yunhai with a few of her roommates a while ago? We tried to talk her out of going that far, but she just wouldn't listen.
She just called us back just now.
Her voice was off. She was crying and shaking. There was a fierce man yelling next to her. They said Xiaoying is being detained in Myanmar.Now. They want a 500,000 ransom or else they said they only give us 3 days. If we can't get the money in 3 days, they'll sell Xiaoying to a place even further away, and we'll never find her again. Xiaofi, what are we gonna do? 500,000! Where are we gonna get 500,000? Dad, don't worry about the money. I'll figure it out. You and Mom stay at home. Don't go anywhere. Wait for my news. Keep your phone on all the time. If they call again, try to stall them, but don't piss them off. Just say we're collecting the money, and we need more time. Xiaofi, what can you possibly do? Where are you gonna get 500,000? I have a way, trust me. Take good care of Mom. After that, I hung up the phone and walked out of the room. I bought a ticket to Yunhai City. Since I can't control my strength properly right now, I decided to take public transport. It's safer. The 3-hour drive was torture every single minute. The high-speed train finally pulled into Yunhai City Station slowly. I didn't waste any time. I walked out of the station and got straight into a taxi. Master, take me near the border port. The taxi stopped by a desolate highway. That's the port over there. There's a sentry post further ahead. Tourists usually can't get past there. There are a lot of hills around here. See those houses opposite? That's the Myanmar town. I paid the fare, opened the door gently, and got off. I stood by the road with my backpack on. A few hundred meters ahead, I could see Longguo's solemn National Gate building and waving flags. Vehicles and people were lining up for inspection next to it. Further away, a not-so-tall mountain range stretched across. The buildings on the other side of the mountain had obviously different styles. They looked messy and low. That's Myanmar. The borderline winds between these mountains. I didn't walk towards the port, but turned around and walked towards the other side of the highway, the weed-covered hillside. There was no path there. The woods were thick, and barely anyone visited there. After walking for a few minutes, I made sure I was completely out of sight from the highway. I stopped and put down my backpack. Ahead is the mountain ridge covered in thick vegetation. The regular path is completely blocked. I didn't take a running start. I just bent my knees slightly. The terrifying strength in my legs exploded with a loud bang. The muddy ground under my feet burst apart violently, leaving a shallow pit behind. I launched forward like a fired cannon shell, zooming straight up towards the top of the hillside. At an incredibly fast speed, the surrounding trees, vines, and rocks turned into blurs of green and gray light and shadow. Speeding past behind me, The wind whistled sharply in my ears. I didn't panic this time. Instead, I focused all my attention on controlling my body posture in midair. I didn't choose the easily exposed straight upward path. Instead, I bounced quickly off trees in the forest for momentum. In just a few leaps and bounds, I was already close to the ridge. The vegetation here was even denser, almost impossible to pass through. I didn't stop for even a second. Tough vines and thorny bushes were roughly knocked over and torn apart by me, making crisp cracking sounds as they broke. My clothes got torn with more gashes. I felt faint pricks on my skin, but they were even less annoying than a tickle. Finally, I rushed onto the top of the ridge. A faint path that had been trodden by people, and then covered by weeds, lay right in front of me. Next to it, a weathered stone tablet was half buried in the soil. Blurred numbers and the word border were carved on it. This was the boundary line. I turned my gaze to the other side of the ridge. The terrain there was slightly gentler. It was an endless sea of green forest. But further down in the valley, I could clearly see more messy, unplanned buildings, with smoke curling up from kitchen chimneys. I could even hear faint shouts in local dialect and dog barks. "Ningo, I'm here!" Without any hesitation, I jumped off the ridge. The falling speed was even faster, but I had experience this time. As I fell, I kept using my toes or palms to push off trees and protruding rocks on the steep slope, to reduce impact, though my movements were still a bit stiff. A few times I pushed too hard, kicking small trees so hard they shook violently, or stepping on rock surfaces so hard fragments went flying. When I landed, my feet left 2 shallow pits on the ground again, sending surrounding leaves flying everywhere. I steadied my body, half squatting on the ground, and looked around. I had crossed successfully. I didn't run into any patrol teams. I didn't trigger any alarms. The whole process was simple and brutal. When I passed through a relatively open banana grove, I saw some empty mineral water bottles and food packaging bags scattered on the ground. The text on them was Burmese mixed with some Chinese. These were clear signs of human activity. About half an hour later, I reached the edge of that valley. I hid behind the thick bushes and looked down below. This was a typical border town, or more accurately, a large village. On the street, I saw dark-skinned, local men wearing traditional Burmese longis, zooming past on beat-up motorcycles. I also saw some people of Chinese appearance, dressed exactly the same as people from China, walking in a hurry or gathering in front of shabby shops chatting. What was more noticeable was that, at the edge of the town, near the direction of the mountain forest, there were several areas enclosed by high walls. Barbed wire was strung along the top of the walls, some of which was even electrified. At the gates were men in messy uniforms, carrying guns on guard duty, scanning the surroundings with vigilant eyes. Those were most likely the park compounds. My heartbeat sped up slightly. My sister might be inside one of them, trapped behind one of these high walls. But I couldn't act recklessly. I needed more information first. Soon I arrived at the edge of the main street. My eyes locked on that Sichuan-style snack shop. The storefront was very small, with 2 folding tables placed at the entrance. A slightly chubby, middle-aged Chinese boss wearing an apron was stir-frying something in a wok. Delicious aromas drifted out. There were no other customers in the shop. I adjusted my breathing slightly, trying to make my expression look as natural as possible. "Hey boss, I'd like something to eat." The middle-aged boss looked up at me, his gaze lingering for a moment on my dirt and grass-stained and badly torn clothes. A flash of vigilance crossed his eyes, but he quickly returned to his normal expression. What do you want to order?" "We have Keofan rice noodles and other stuff." "A bowl of fried rice and a bottle of water, please." "Coming right up." The boss turned around to start working. I took the chance to quickly scan the shop and the street outside. On the wall were a few faded domestic landscape prints and a yellowed calendar. The TV in the corner is turned on, playing blurry Burmese language programs. The fried rice was served very quickly. It looked plain and was super greasy. I picked up the disposable chopsticks. I controlled my strength really well this time, and didn't break them. "Hey buddy, you just got here, right?"
You look unfamiliar.
"Yeah, something happened back at home. I came here to find some work." The boss exhaled a puff of smoke. His eyes darted across my face a couple times. He didn't press further on the topic, just spoke in a flat tone. "There is work available around here, but it's not easy to get into. Looking at your situation, you haven't found a place to work yet, right?" No, boss. I'm really at the end of my rope here. My little sister was brought here by people from this side. They said she was taken to some kind of park. I just want to ask what places are around here and what the situation is like with them. Buddy, you can't just go asking around about that. The waters here are really murky. I know that, boss. I just want to get a general idea, so I have a rough sense of what's going on. My little sister is 19 years old this year. She looks like a student. There were 3 other female classmates with her. Have you heard anything about them? Or do you know if any new people were sent to any of the parks recently? I'll pay you for the info. Hey. Forget about the money. You seem like an honest guy anyway. I'll tell you a couple things. You leave right after you hear this. Don't cause trouble and don't tell anyone I told you this. There are 3 or 4 big parks around this town. Hengsheng Tech Park in the northern mountain valley, Xintiandi Entertainment City by the eastern riverside, and Jinhui International a bit further west from here. All of them are ruthless places that eat people alive. No matter how you get in there, it's almost impossible to get out. A girl your sister's age that looks like a student. If she arrived here in the last few days, I heard some customers chatting when they ate here recently. They said Jinhui International got a new batch of goods lately. There were several young women in that group, all crying and sniffling. They made quite a big commotion. Not sure if that's the group you're looking for. Jinhui International in the west. That place is very heavily guarded. Lots of thugs there and they all have guns. The person in charge is called Zai. He's a local, extremely cruel and ruthless. He has connections with many local forces here. Buddy, take my advice. If she really ended up in there. The boss didn't finish his sentence, but his meaning was very clear. I nodded silently and shoveled the last bite of fried rice into my mouth. Thank you, boss. I pulled out money and placed it on the table. The amount was a bit more than the cost of the meal. The boss glanced at it, didn't say anything, and quietly put it away. I slung on my backpack, stood up and thanked him again, turned around and quickly walked into a nearby remote alley. Another fool who doesn't know his own mortality, Tasai. I stood on a gravel slope west of the town. Jinhui International Park was just 100 meters ahead. Barbed wire was coiled along the top of the tall concrete wall. Every few meters along the wall, a security camera was slowly rotating. There was a simple guard booth next to the closed heavy iron gate. 2 guards wearing messy green uniforms, with AK rifles slung over their shoulders, were smoking. I started walking, straight towards the park gate just like that. My feet stepped on the gravel, making a soft rustling sound. At first, the 2 guards in the booth didn't pay any attention, until I was less than 50 meters away from the gate, and showed no sign of stopping or turning away. Hey, stop right there. What do you think you're doing? You're not allowed to come near here. Damn it, I told you to stop. You hear me? One more step and I'll shoot. You looking for a beating? Monster! A series of bullets shot towards me. I didn't even bother to catch them this time. Just slightly turned my body sideways. The Diao Yan guard was scared out of his wits. He let out a strange scream, swung his rifle butt straight at my head. I just casually slapped back with my palm, hitting the rifle butt that was coming at me, and the guard's terrified face behind it. The guard's body froze immediately. My hand was still hovering in midair. I forced myself to take deep breaths. It's my first time killing someone after all. Once, twice, air filled my lungs. It slightly suppressed the churning nausea. I couldn't stop. My little sister was still inside. These people are kidnappers. They're scammers. They're cold-blooded butchers. If they don't die, my sister and countless people like her will die, or live a fate worse than death. I turn around and walk to the guard collapsed on the ground who wet himself. The guard sees me approaching and is scared out of his wits. He tries to crawl backward. I don't look at him. My gaze falls on the item hanging at his waist, a Burmese machete in its sheath. Which building is Chajai in? Which room? Oh, office building. The T tallest one. Full 4th floor, the innermost room. We only guard the gate. Don't kill me, please. I move the machete away, right when the guard thinks he's escaped danger and shows a look of relief at surviving. I lift my foot and seemingly casually kick his chest lightly, bang. The guard's body flies backward like a cannonball off the ground and slams hard into a tree 30 meters away. The thick trunk of a large arbor. I don't look that way anymore. Instead, I hold the machete in my hand and turn to face the tightly closed, heavy iron gate. I walk up to the gate, lift my foot and kick hard right at the lock position. I step over the fallen iron gate with the machete in hand. The dust hasn't settled yet. Figures have already appeared up ahead. 7 or 8 guards rushing over at the noise. Some carry machetes and iron bars. Others hold rifles. When they see it's only me, a crazy guy holding a machete, they are shocked at first. Then their faces turn vicious. Fuck, he dared to break in? Kill him. Ah. 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 Wah. He, Ah. Wah. Shoot him dead. Who are you? What do you want? This place is under military protection. Don't you dare touch me. Is this girl Luo Ying here? I don't know. I've never seen her. Ah. 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 Tell me right now, where is my sister? So she's not here. She was taken away this morning. Who took her? Where did they take her? Spit it out. I'm young Master Wang. I'm from the Wang family. I only run this park for the Wang family. Young Master Wang came for inspection a few days ago to check the newly arrived batch of goods. Your sister and the others were part of that batch. Young Master Wang said we need to maintain good relations with General Su Wen recently and need fresh gifts. So he told us not to touch them. He took all 4 of them this morning. Said he'd split them with the general, 2 each. I told you everything. Stop hitting me. What is the Wang family? Who is General Su Wen anyway? Where is his station? Over here in northern Myanmar. There are 4 most powerful families. Zhou Wu Zheng Wang. They run tons of parks of all sizes. Our Jinhui International is one of the Wang family's properties. The Wang family cooperates with several local warlords, providing them with funds and military aid. They have their own protection and territory. Young Master Wang took his men to visit General Su Wen's station today. Where is General Su Wen's station? Exact location. It's northwest from here, about 40 kilometers away, in a valley called Manga. That's General Su Wen's base. There's a military camp there. It's heavily guarded. No regular person can get in. Do you have young Master Wang's phone number? Yes, I saved it on my phone. I'll get it for you. Oomph. Young Master Wang. Don't kill me. I told you everything. I can give you money. Lots of money. I walk out of the office building and come to the open ground in the park. The afternoon sun is still blazing hot, shining on the mess and blood all over the ground. I look up to identify the direction, the northwest direction Cha Kai mentioned. Next second, I take a deep breath. My body flies through the air like a fired cannonball, racing straight towards the northwest. Just a few minutes later, the terrain up ahead starts to change. We've arrived at Manka Valley General Thorwin Station, landed heavily on a small hillside. The impact of my landing punched a huge crater in the ground. My gaze swept across the military camp below. It's pretty big. Tents and shacks are scattered all over the valley. There are at least hundreds of people here. Hey Chachi, what's up? I told you I'm with the general, right? What the fuck is wrong now? Hey, say something. Cha-Cha, you gone mute. Wong, come have a drink. Don't worry about those trivial things. The gifts you brought. Ha ha ha, great. I love them. I'm glad you like them, General. I picked these two specially for you. The freshest, prettiest ones. Hold them down. Brother. You. Who dares break into my place? Guards. All of you must die. Kids, all of you close your eyes. Cover your ears. Don't shoot. We're on the same side. I'm with the Dragon Nation police. I'm undercover inside the Wang family. I'm on a mission. Proof. My identity is classified, but I can tell you my police ID number and the names of Team Leader Zhao and Team Leader Liu from Yunhai City Bureau. You can verify it. Xiaoying, all of you stay here. Don't come out, don't open your eyes no matter what. I'll go take care of the mess outside. Then I'll take you all home. Bear with it for now. If I confirm your identity checks out, I'll let you go. If you're lying, you know the consequences. Careful, there are a lot of people outside, and heavy weaponry too. Luofei didn't respond. He took one last look at where his sister was, confirmed she was safe for the moment. Then he took a deep breath, gripped the already blunted machete in his hand. His gaze turned to the outside of the gate he'd smashed through. Loud footsteps and the sound of rifle bolts clicking outside, and officers' shouts were already right outside. Crowds of figures had surrounded this. Big house completely, no way in or out. Guns were pointed straight at the doorway. Luofei glanced back at his sister's position. The next second, he shot up like a cannonball fired into the sky. He leaped violently towards the roof. He didn't rush towards the door. He went straight up. Rumble. The wooden and partially brick roof was hit by his full power leap and smashed a huge hole right through it. Debris went flying everywhere, and Luofei's figure had already shot out through the hole, leaping high into the air. Below were crowds of surrounding warlord soldiers. Countless shocked, horrified gazes all lifted up, looking at the sky. Guns were raised subconsciously. Luofei adjusted his posture in midair. His cold gaze swept across the dense crowd below. Fire at the guy up there? No one knew who screamed the order. The next second, gunfire erupted like a raging storm. Chapter 14, Lifeng. Fire at the guy up top? Chaotic shouts and storm-like gunfire rang out, but the hasty shots were totally off target. Luofei already smashed into the crowd like a meteor. Thud. The second he landed, a huge shockwave exploded outwards from where he stood. The 4 or 5 closest soldiers took the brunt of it. Their bones were instantly shattered by the impact. They spewed blood from their mouths and flew backwards, knocking over even more people behind them. Dust and smoke billowed into the sky. Scatter! Scatter now! An officer screamed at the top of his lungs. Luofei squatted in the middle of the shallow crater he'd made and slowly stood up straight. The surviving soldiers around him were so shocked by this demon god descending scene that they were frozen. For a moment, they even forgot to shoot. They just stared in horror at the center of the slowly rising figure. Luofei didn't give them any time to catch their breath. He moved, darting like a ghost straight into the group of panicked soldiers next to him. The first soldier he targeted just raised his gun. When his vision went dark, a shoe sole covered in blood and dirt rapidly grew larger in his view. Thud. Luofei kicked him hard in the chest. The soldier felt like he'd been hit head-on by a speeding truck. His chest caved in a huge chunk instantly. Who knows how many bones were broken? He flew backwards immediately, like a bowling ball, and slammed hard into the crowd behind him. The 5 or 6 soldiers he hit screamed and fell with him, tumbling into a pile. The sound of bones breaking came from everywhere, and this was just the beginning. Luo Fei keeps flashing and charging through the crowd. The machete in his hand turns into streaks of deadly cold light. Every slash grazes the vital points of several people with perfect accuracy, because the crowd is way too packed. Often a single slash takes the lives of 2 or 3 people. Open fire, shoot him dead, don't be scared. He's all alone. An officer hiding behind the crowd is yelling at the top of his lungs. The extremely terrified soldiers, under the threat of death and the officer's orders, finally pull the trigger again. Rat-tat-tat-tat, bung-bung-bung. Chaotic gunfire rings out again. But right now the crowd is so tightly packed, and Luo Fei's figure is like a ghost weaving through the crowd. Lots of bullets miss Luo Fei, and hit their own men instead. Stop shooting, you hit me. We're on the same side. Screams and curses from friendly fire make the scene even more chaotic. Luo Fei is like a tiger among a flock of sheep. Everywhere he goes, men are knocked flying. Flesh and blood splatter everywhere. The machete in his hand after slashing at who knows how many people finally can't hold up anymore. It snaps in half with a crack. The half-blade spins and flies outward and stabs into the eye socket of a soldier who tried to sneak attack him from behind. The soldier howls in agony and falls to the ground. Luo Fei doesn't even glance at him. He casually grabs from the hand of a dead soldier on the ground a fairly intact Burmese machete and keeps fighting. Every slash takes several lives. Every kick sends a group of enemies flying. He's completely covered in blood, from head to toe, like he just got pulled out of a pool of blood. The air reeks of thick blood and gunpowder. The originally 100-strong encirclement, in just a few minutes, is like a wheat field being harvested. More than half of the men have fallen. The rest finally break down. This isn't a fight. This is a one-sided massacre. It's ordinary people facing an incomprehensible monster. Monster? He's a monster. He can't be killed. We can't kill him at all. Run! Run fast! Fear spreads quickly among the remaining crowd. The surviving soldiers finally lose all will to fight. They scream and cry, dropping their weapons, turn around and run like hell for the camp perimeter. Military orders. The general, none of that matters more than staying alive right now. Luo Fei's bloodshot eyes sweep over the fleeing backs. He doesn't plan to let any of them go. He pushes off the ground with his foot and catches up to the fastest running soldier. He slashes down with the machete. He doesn't stop and turns to the next target. He's way too fast. The fleeing soldiers can't outrun him at all. Screams keep ringing out all over the camp, then quickly fall silent. Finally, the entire Manga Valley camp has no standing enemy alive left. Silence, deadly silence, covers the valley. Luo Fei stands quietly. The machete in his hand, again from excessive use, has developed notches. His clothes and pants, after the fierce fight and countless grazing bullets, have long turned into blood-stained rags that barely cover his body. He looks down at his blood-covered hands and walks toward the big tree where he left his backpack earlier. He picks up the backpack. He opens it, there's a change of tracksuit inside, as well as a towel and water. He walks to a nearby stream and quickly washes the blood off his body. Then he dries himself off and puts on the clean tracksuit. He rolls up the blood-stained, ragged old clothes into a ball and throws them deep into the stream, letting them wash away. He slings the backpack over his shoulder, carries the machete, and turns back to the big wooden house in the barracks. The scene inside is still the same. General Suin lies in a pool of blood from excessive blood loss. His face is ashen, his breathing is faint, and he's half unconscious. The man who claimed to be a cop is still sitting on the ground with his hands and feet tied. When he sees Luo Fei come in, his expression is extremely complicated. Behind the bunker in the corner, Luo Ying and her 3 roommates still have their eyes tightly shut and their ears covered. Several other girls are also huddled behind the bunker, too scared to move. Luo Fei doesn't go to his sister first. He walks up to the dying General Suin. He squats down and taps the general's bloodless, pale face with the back of the knife. Suin opens his eyes with difficulty and sees Luo Fei. His pupils are full of fear and plea. "Where do you keep the money, gold, and other valuables?" Luo Fei asked in a cold tone. He has nothing right now. He needs money to resettle his sister after rescuing her, and also needs money to set his parents' minds at rest. This evil warlord, must have extorted tons of wealth from common people. Suwon wanted to save his own life and dared not hide anything at all. He used his last bit of strength to confess off and on. It's on the 10th floor of the building behind where I live. There's a hidden compartment under the bedroom floor with gold bars, cash, and a Ruiguo bank card. The password is... He spoke out a string of numbers. Luofei wrote them down. Please spare my life, I beg you. You can take all the money, Suwon begged in a faint, dying voice. Luofei looked at him. There was no change in his eyes at all. Begging from a scum like him is totally worthless. He raised his hand and swung the machete lightly. His last plea froze on his face. His eyes dimmed quickly, and he lost his breath completely. The warlord was dealt with. Luofei stood up and walked to the tied-up policeman. He took out Chichai's phone from his backpack and handed it to the man. Call your superior. Luofei's voice was calm. Put it on speaker. Prove your identity. The man looked at the phone in front of him, then glanced at Luofei's cold eyes. He knew this was his only chance. He struggled with his tied hands to operate the phone with much difficulty and dialed a number. The call was answered very soon. A calm male voice came from the other end, speaking in code. The man responded with the matching code, then quickly explained his current situation. The other end of the line went silent for a few seconds, as if they were confirming and assessing the situation. Then the voice on the other end gave instructions. Make sure the hostages are safe. The rendezvous point is on the Longguo side of the border at a hidden coordinate. Someone will meet you there. At the same time, they ask to collect as much evidence and stolen money of the criminal group as possible. The call was hung up. Luofei heard the whole conversation clearly. Their words, reactions, and code check all seemed very professional and didn't look fake. Most of his doubts faded away. He squatted down and cut the cloth strips binding the man's hands and feet with a knife. Li Feng, Criminal Investigation Detachment of Yunhai City Bureau. The man moved his wrists and ankles with strangle marks as he introduced himself formally. His eyes were full of gratitude when he looked at Luofei. Thank you, comrade. And thank you for your trust. May I know your name, please? Luofei, he answered in a concise way and said nothing more. My sister is Luo Ying. How do we arrange the other girls? And what about this camp? Li Feng replied immediately. According to our superior's instructions, we need to take all hostages to the border rendezvous point safely. We can't stay here for long. Suen is done for. His rivals or other forces may come here soon after hearing the news. We need transportation. Lahi nodded and pointed outside. There are trucks and jeeps. The car young Master Wang drove should also work. Okay, Li Feng said quickly. Comrade Luofei, please protect the hostages well. I'll go find a truck. To load the other girls, evidence and stolen money. The general's belongings. Gold bars and cash, you take them and hand them over. Luofei cut him off. I'm keeping the bank card. I know the password. I need money to resettle my sister and family. Li Feng glanced at him, thought for a moment, and didn't object. He nodded. Sure. Recovering stolen money is one of our tasks anyway. It's great enough that you cooperate to hand over part of it. You can handle the bank card by yourself. Li Feng endured the discomfort caused by the horrible scene outside, quickly went out and found a military truck that could still start, and drove it near the house. Then he and Luofei moved several boxes of gold bars, looted from General Suwen's residence, and lots of cash from different countries onto the truck. Luofei only kept that Ruiguo bank card and put it into his pocket. He also went to check the SUV that young Master Wang drove here. It was in good condition. The key was still inside. Then Li Feng carefully helped the other several terrified girls onto the back of the truck and told them to huddle together, cover them with the blankets we found. Try to calm them down. When it was Luo Ying and the others' turn, Luofei walked over. He gently patted his sister's still trembling shoulder. Luo Ying felt the familiar touch. Her body jolted slightly, slowly let go of the hand covering her ears, but she still didn't dare open her eyes. Xiaoying, it's me. Luofei kept his voice as soft as possible. It's okay, all the bad guys are gone. We're going home now. Listen, I'll carry you all to the car later. Be good and keep your eyes closed on the road. Don't open them, okay? Wait till I say it's okay. Then you can open your eyes. When Luo Ying heard the word home, tears welled up in her eyes again. She nodded hard. Her voice was thick with nasal congestion. Okay, brother. I'll do as you say. I won't open my eyes. Luofei touched his sister's hair lovingly. Then he bent down. He picked up his sister horizontally in his arms. Luo Ying snuggled into her brother's arms. This embrace made her feel safer and warmer than ever before. She kept her eyes tightly shut and buried her face in his chest. Luofei carried his sister towards the luxury off-road vehicle. Li Feng had already opened the passenger door for them. Luofei carefully put his sister in the passenger seat and fastened her seatbelt, then closed the door. He and Li Feng also carried Luo Ying's roommates into the car. Then he started the car. Li Feng got into the cab of the truck as well. Luofei followed right behind Li Feng's truck and drove away from the warlord camp that had become a bloody hell. Chapter 15, Zhaojiangguo. The off-road vehicle drove past the outside of the camp, over the last bumpy dirt road, and onto the relatively flat makeshift road. The bloody Manga Valley outside the window was left far behind and gradually blocked by the dense forest. The air conditioner in the car hummed softly. Luofei held the steering wheel with both hands, his eyes fixed on the military truck that Li Feng was driving ahead. Luo Ying, who was sitting in the passenger seat, still had her eyes closed. Her long eyelashes trembled with fear. Her hands clenched tightly onto the tattered clothes on her chest. Her three roommates in the back seat huddled close to each other. They also had their eyes tightly closed. Their faces were pale. Their bodies would flinch from time to time. When the car hit a bump, Luofei knew he couldn't let them stay in this constant state of fear. He spoke in a gentle voice. Xiaoying, and you girls too, you can open your eyes now. We've left that place. We're safe now. His voice was especially clear in the silent car. Luo Ying's body jolted again. Her eyelashes trembled violently a few times. Then she opened her eyes just a tiny crack. The first thing she saw was her brother. Luofei's side profile as he focused on driving. Brother? Tears flooded Luo Ying's eyes again instantly. She choked up, trying to say something, but couldn't get any words out through her sobs. The three girls in the back seat also opened their eyes one by one. First, they looked out the window, at the forest scenery flashing past. Then they confirmed they had really left that nightmarish place. Then they saw Luofei driving, and Luo Ying crying beside him. After a brief moment of daze, they were still in shock, and also started sobbing quietly. It's okay, all right. It's all over now. Luofei freed one hand and patted his sister's shoulder gently. His movement was a little stiff. He said softly, Don't cry anymore. If your eyes get swollen, Mom and Dad will feel bad. He then looked at the rearview mirror and said to the girls in the back seat, You guys are safe too. I'm Luofei, Luo Ying's brother. When the girls heard that, they cried even harder, but this time it was tears of relief after surviving the disaster. One of the girls, who had short hair and wore glasses, said through sobs, thank you so much, Brother Luofei. I'm Chen Yu. Thank you for coming to save us. The other two girls also hurriedly introduced themselves through sobs. I'm Zhang Yue. I'm Liu Qian. Thank you, brother. Luofei nodded. No need to thank me. You're all Xiao Ying's classmates. It's the least I can do. He paused for a moment, took out Kai Cai's phone from his pocket and handed it to Luo Ying. Xiao Ying, use this to call Mom and Dad first to let them know you're safe. They've been worried sick. After you get through, let your classmates call their families too to let them know you're okay. Luo Ying took the phone. Her trembling fingers pressed the number. The call was answered almost instantly. Mom's tearful voice came through the receiver right away. Hello, who's this? Mom, it's me. I'm Xiao Ying. The moment Luo Ying spoke, her tears, which had just eased, a little burst out again. Mom, I'm fine now. Brother got me out. On the other end of the line, Mom's crying suddenly stopped short. Then she burst into loud wails. Ying Ying, my baby Ying Ying. You're really okay. You really got out. Xiaofi found you. Where are you guys now? Are you safe? Did you get hurt? Dad's voice can also be heard in the background, so excited that he's rambling incoherently. Luo Ying answered intermittently while crying. We got out. Brother's here, we're in the car, totally safe, no injuries. Just a little spooked. Mom, don't cry. I'm really okay now. After comforting her mom, she handed the phone to Chen Yu in the back seat and said, Xiao Yu, call your family now. Chen Yu nodded quickly and took the phone. His fingers trembled as he dialed the number. Soon another round of post-escape sobbing and comforting broke out in the car. Zhang Yue and Liu Qian also took the phone in turn. The moment each girl heard her family's voice, They cried so hard they couldn't control themselves. Luofei drove the car quietly. The taut string in his heart finally loosened a little. The car drove on the mountain road for about half an hour. A flat open space in the woods appeared ahead. 2 black off-road vehicles were already parked on the open space. Several men in plain clothes, with straight postures, stood beside the cars. When they saw the truck driven by Li Feng and Luofei's car approaching, those men immediately became alert. They discreetly moved their hands to their waists. Li Feng stopped the car first, jumped out of the cab, and walked quickly towards those men. They talked in a low, fast voice. The expressions of those men relaxed a little. One of them picked up the walkie-talkie to report in a low voice. Luofei also stopped the car, but didn't get out immediately. He glanced at the people outside, who were obviously official personnel, then looked at his sister and her classmates, who had just calmed down a little beside him. Xiaoying, you guys stay in the car first. Don't be scared. The people outside are here to pick us up. They're police. Luofei comforted them in a soft voice. The girls nodded. Although they were still a little nervous, they felt safe enough at the moment. Luofei opened the door and got out. Li Feng was talking in a low, fast voice with the leading middle-aged man among the group. The middle-aged man had a square face, and his skin was relatively dark. As he listened to Li Feng's report, shock and disbelief flashed across his face from time to time. He also glanced several times at Luofei, who got off the off-road vehicle. His eyes were full of curiosity. When Li Feng mentioned that Luofei had single-handedly taken down the warlord camp and killed General Su Wen, the middle-aged man's pupils constricted obviously for a moment. Luofei walked over. Li Feng immediately introduced Comrade Luofei. This is Captain Zhao of the Yunhai Criminal Investigation Detachment, the on-site commander of this operation. Captain Zhao, this is Luofei, Luo Ying's elder brother. Captain Zhao stepped forward and offered his hand actively. His tone was serious with a hint of amazement. Comrade Luofei? Hello, I'm Zhao Jiangguo. Comrade Li Feng has already briefed me on the general situation. You've worked hard. Thank you also for rescuing our comrades and compatriots. Luofei reached out and shook his hand. He controlled his strength. The handshake was just a light touch and then separated. Hello, Captain Zhao. Luofei's voice was calm. I've got the people out. I'll leave the follow-up resettlement to you. This is what we should do. Captain Zhao nodded, hesitated for a moment, then asked anyway, is the situation reported by Li Feng true about the campsite? Mostly true. Luofei didn't explain much. There's no danger at the camp for now. The seized dirty money and evidence are in the truck. Captain Zhao took a deep breath, suppressing the shock in his heart. He said in a deep voice, we will immediately arrange personnel to transfer all personnel back to China safely and arrange physical checks and psychological counseling. As for the camp side, we need to further assess and report up and communicate with the Myanmar side through formal channels. Lahi nodded, expressing his understanding of the official procedures. But he thought of the Jinwei International Park, where our innocent compatriots are still detained, forced to run scams, and possibly being tortured right now. Captain Zhao, Luofei spoke up, his voice still calm. Besides my sister and the others, there's another place where a lot of our compatriots are being held, forced to commit fraud, and their situation is very dangerous. Captain Zhao frowned immediately. Where? Jinhui International Park is in the direction we came from. The man in charge there is Chachai. I've already taken care of him. But there are still many trapped people inside, and there are quite a few guards left too, Luofei said. Captain Zhao's expression grew even more serious. Cross-border law enforcement in such parks is extremely sensitive, especially without the Myanmar government's official approval and cooperation. If a large number of our personnel enter the area, it could easily be misinterpreted as armed invasion, triggering severe diplomatic disputes, or even military conflict. We need time to apply for coordination. By the time you finish coordinating, the people inside might already have been transferred or killed. Luofei cut him off. Time waits for no one. Captain Zhao was silent for a moment, then looked at Luofei. Comrade Luofei, you mean I should go? Luofei answered firmly, I'll go alone, and bring all the people out. No need for your official involvement. So there won't be any diplomatic issues. Alone. Captain Zhao and Li Feng said almost in unison, their faces full of disbelief. I know a bit about the park's situation. The guards' weapons are nothing compared to the warlords, Luofei said in a flat tone. Besides, I'm only going to rescue people. Not to fight. I'll get the people out and send them to a safe place. You can take over the rest after that." Captain Zhao and Li Feng exchanged a look, and both saw hesitation in each other's eyes. "I'll go with you." Li Feng spoke up suddenly, his gaze firm. "I'm more familiar with the situation over there. Besides, I'm a police officer. Rescuing trapped compatriots is my duty. We'll take a truck, so we can fit more people." Luo Fei glanced at him and didn't object right away. An extra helper who knows the area well, especially an official personnel, might help with the resettlement work later. But he still looked at Captain Zhao. Captain Zhao's brows were furrowed tightly, apparently having a fierce internal struggle. Finally, he gritted his teeth. "Fine. Li Feng, you cooperate with Comrade Luo Fei. Make rescuing compatriots your top priority. Pay attention to your safety. Keep in touch at all times. I'll handle the hostage handover and follow-up work here." He made a risky but potentially highly rewarding decision. "Yes." Li Feng stood at attention, his expression solemn. Lahi nodded. "There's no time to waste. Let's set off right now." He turned and walked towards the SUV he drove here, pulled the door open, and saw his sister Luo Ying looking at him nervously. "Brother, can we go home now?" Luo Fei bent down, looked into his sister's eyes, trying to make his tone sound more relaxed. "I'm going to rescue the other uncles, aunts, brothers and sisters locked up by bad guys in the park. I'll be back soon. You go back with Uncle Zhao first. Brother, it's too dangerous." "Please don't go." Luo Ying grabbed his arm tightly, tears welling up in her eyes again. "Those people have guns. Don't worry, your brother is super tough. See? I already rescued you, right?" Luo Fei ruffled his sister's hair and smiled, even though the smile looked a little forced. "Be good, go with Uncle Zhao. I promise I'll come back to you really soon." Luo Ying looked at her brother's determined eyes and knew she couldn't stop him. She bit her lip, nodded with tears in her eyes, and let go of his arm. "Oh, okay, you have to be careful. Come back soon." I will." Luo Fei nodded at the three girls in the back seat, then closed the car door. He walked towards Captain Zhao. "My sister and her classmates. I'll leave them in your care," Captain Zhao said solemnly. "Don't worry. We'll make sure they're completely safe and properly taken care of." Luo Fei didn't say anything else, slung his backpack over his shoulder, and walked toward the military truck. Li Feng was already sitting in the driver's seat. Luo Fei pulled open the passenger door and got in. The truck started up, turned around, followed the road they'd come from, and headed in the direction of Jinhui International Park to drive there once more. Luo Fei saw his little sister in the rearview mirror, pressed up against the SUV's window, waving at him as hard as she could, her little face full of worry. Captain Zhao and the other plainclothes officers had already started arranging for the girls to switch vehicles. Chapter 16, The Furious Wang Tianxiang. The inside of the truck was very quiet. All you could hear was the engine and the soft rustle of tires against the road. Luo Fei broke the silence. "Officer Li, up here in northern Myanmar, besides the four big families, Zhou, Wu, Zheng, Wang, how many warlords are there? Can't the government forces control them?" Li Feng spoke with a heavy tone. "There are quite a few warlords. Dozens of groups, big and small, for sure. Guys like So Win who have fixed territory. There's over a dozen of them with decent power, too. They usually have all kinds of forces backing them behind the scenes. Some even have connections with certain factions in Myanmar's central government." "Government forces?" Li Feng's voice held a note of helplessness. "Officially, of course, they're supposed to be in charge, and they launch clearance operations all the time. But the areas these warlords occupy are mostly deep mountain forests. The terrain is complicated, easy to defend, and hard to attack. Plus, the interest chains behind them are way too deep. You can't wipe them out completely. It's normal for them to pop back up. Most of the time, the government forces, warlords, local ethnic militias, and those criminal families we just mentioned, all of them, maintain a balance of interests, or rather, an unspoken agreement." Luo Fei listened quietly. "So that means So Win's sudden collapse will probably break the balance in this area. The Wang family," Luo Fei continued asking, "how's their power? Where do they rank among the four families?" "The Wang family?" Li Feng paused to think for a second. "In terms of wealth and number of parks they control, they're probably second or third, but they're the most arrogant and aggressive of the bunch, and they have the deepest ties with the warlords, especially with Bo Win. Young Master Wang is the representative of the Wang family's current generation. He's ruthless and cruel, and extremely lecherous. Now that both young Master Wang and So Win are dead, there was no emotion in Luo Fei's voice. What will the Wang family do? That's the most critical question. Li Feng was silent for a few seconds, before speaking slowly. They'll definitely retaliate. They lost an important business partner, plus a direct heir of the family. They've lost both face and actual advantage. With how the Wang family operates, they'll definitely spare no cost to find out who did it, then launch the bloodiest retaliation possible, to scare off other forces and keep their own people in line. He paused for a moment. Concern seeped into his voice. Luo Fei, did you leave a lot of traces when you rescued the people? Is there a chance they can track you down? Luo Fei thought back to what he'd done at Jinhui International and the Manga barracks. A lot, he admitted frankly. People at the park saw me. There are barely any survivors left from the barracks. Li Feng took a sharp breath in the truck. Then there's a pretty high chance they'll follow the clues to find you. And your family. Li Feng's tone grew even heavier. The Wang family has a lot of informants and businesses in the country, especially in the border provinces. They might not dare to openly carry out large-scale operations on Dragon Country soil, but they could use dirty tricks or hire hitmen. You can never guard against that stuff completely. That was exactly what Luo Fei was most worried about. He wasn't scared for himself. His physique that could survive a nuclear bomb gave him the confidence to face any open attack or underhanded trick. But what about his parents? What about his little sister? They were just regular people. They couldn't hide under his wing forever. If he was even a little careless, or if the Wang family used some despicable trick like luring him away, kidnapping, or coercion, he wouldn't be able to live with the consequences. Luo Fei's eyebrows furrowed deeply. It looked like rescuing the compatriots at Jinhui International Park was only the first step. The Wang family, this future trouble, had to be completely eliminated. At the very least, he had to cut off the claws they stretched. Toward himself and his family, is there any way to make them too busy to retaliate for now, or too scared to do it? Luo Fei asked, a cold hint of killing intent creeping into his voice. Li Feng caught what he was implying, and said quickly, Luo Fei, don't act on impulse. The Wang family's influence is deeply entrenched. Killing one or two people won't solve the problem. Besides, attacking someone domestically is a totally different matter. I never said I'd do it inside the country. Luo Fei cut him off. Li Feng was stunned for a moment. Then he immediately figured out Luo Fei's plan. We need intelligence for that. Li Feng didn't object directly. Instead, he said cautiously, let's handle the park's affairs first. As for the Wang family side, I'll see if I can use my connections to find out their reactions and next moves. Okay? Lahi nodded. The two stopped talking, each lost in their own thoughts. At the same time, inside the Jinhui International Park, the hours after Luo Fei left did not return to peace at all. Instead, the place fell into chaos. The death of Chikai and most elite guards first caused huge panic among the remaining goons and imprisoned. Groups of people held captive there, hostages, especially those who hadn't been locked up for long. Young people who still had the will to resist saw the guard force was stretched thin, and the management was paralyzed. They plucked up their courage, led by a few bold people. They tried to start a riot, rush the gates, and seize weapons. The power bursting out in despair is astonishing. They used every tool they could get their hands on, and even their own bodies, to fight with the remaining guards who were also terrified out of their wits. Fierce clashes broke out all at once. Shouts, fighting sounds, and screams filled the whole park. Blood stained the ground again, but the resistance was too hasty after all. Though the remaining guards were scared, they had weapons and were ruthless enough. More importantly, several low-level leaders at the deputy supervisor level reacted to the situation. They yelled into their walkie-talkies to gather all manpower they could still control and suppress the resistance in an even more brutal way. The few resistance leaders were killed on the spot, their bodies dragged to the open ground as a warning. More people who joined the resistance were beaten badly, then locked in water dungeons or dark, cramped confinement rooms. Heart-wrenching wails echoed over the park, which completely terrified the other restless hostages. They gave up all thoughts of resisting. After putting down the internal riot, the few low-level leaders were still terrified. Gathered in Chikai's blood-stained office, they looked at the corpses and damage all over the floor, feeling only fear and lingering dread. Who the hell did this? Boss Chikai just died like that. A scar-faced leader's voice was trembling. That's not a human, definitely not a human. Even bullets can't kill him. What do we do now? The park is in such a mess. We can't get in touch with young Master Wang. Boss Chakai is dead too. A third leader was totally disoriented. The scar-faced man clenched his jaw. A flash of ambition crossed his eyes. We can't mess up. Let's stay calm first. Pull up all the surveillance footage. See what that monster actually looks like. Then contact the Wang family right away. Report the whole situation here to them. Now that Chakai is dead, and we can't reach young Master Wang, this might be an opportunity for us. When the others heard this, their eyes also started to gleam. Chaos means danger, but it could also mean a chance to move up the ranks. They took action immediately. On one hand, they ordered remaining guards to tighten hostage supervision. On the other hand, they sent people to the surveillance room to get all surveillance footage from when Luo Fei broke in. Soon sections of blurry video were clipped out. The figure in the video moved as fast as a ghost. The sight of him crushing skulls and charging through bullets made every leader and guard who watched the video feel a cold chill run down their spine again. This isn't strength and speed a normal human could have. They sent the key video clips, the report of Chakai's death, and the report of heavy park losses, urgently to the Wang family, northern Myanmar, inside a heavily guarded, luxuriously decorated manor. In the study, a middle-aged man in his 50s, wearing a tang suit, is Wang Tianxiang, current head of the Wang family, was looking at the newly received message with a livid face. The purple clay teacup in his hand was smashed to pieces. Jinhui International was attacked. Chakai is dead. Dozens of guards were killed or injured. Wang Tianxiang's voice was icy cold. Every word carried killing intent. Who did this? Have you found out yet? Several trusted subordinates standing below with hands down were too scared to make a sound. A trusted subordinate in charge of intelligence forced himself to step forward. Head of the family. According to the information and video sent from the park, there was only one attacker. But the combat prowess he has shown is truly out of the ordinary, way beyond what normal people are capable of. Here's the video. He operated the computer to play that blurry footage. Wang Tianxiang stared fixedly at the screen. Watching that figure kill people in an unimaginable way, his pupils kept constricting. As a tycoon running a huge criminal empire, he has seen countless ruthless characters. But what's in the video right now is way beyond his understanding. One single person, just one person, destroyed an entire park of mine and killed Chakai. Wang Tianxiang mumbled to himself. Then he looked up sharply. Where's Junhao? Didn't my son Junhao go to Su Wen's place today? Contact him right now. Tell him to take men over to check the situation. Wait, tell him to be careful. And bring heavy weapons with him. His subordinate hurried to contact young Master Wang Junhao, but the call couldn't get through. Calls to the bodyguards Junhao brought also went unanswered. A bad premonition rose in Wang Tianxiang's heart. Contact General Su Wen's side again, he growled. Soon, even worse news came in. General Zhouwen's station at Manga Valley has completely lost all communication. Scouts reported that thick smoke is rising from the direction of the valley. Fierce gunshots and explosions were heard faintly earlier. But it's completely dead silent there now. No one can get close. Wang Tianxiang stood up abruptly. His face was so gloomy it looked like it could drip water. My son is missing. The military camp of my key partner was possibly attacked. My own park was just bloodily wiped out by a single person. All of this happened way too coincidentally. This is targeting the Wang family. A cold glint flashed in Wang Tianxiang's eyes. I don't care who it is. Whoever dares to touch my son, Wang Tianxiang's son, and destroy my properties, I will make him die without a burial site, along with his family and friends. All people related to him. None will be spared. He immediately gave orders. Send elite personnel with heavy weapons to Jinhui International Park right now to take over defense. Find out all clues about the attacker, especially information that could reveal his identity. Send another team of elites to Manga Valley. Find out the situation at all costs, and look for Wang Junhao's whereabouts. Activate all informants and connections in the country. Closely monitor border movements, especially any information related to these two incidents, whether about individuals or groups. Contact the other three families and our cooperating warlords. Inform them of the situation, exert pressure, and carry out joint investigation. Orders were issued one after another. All forces of the Wang family in northern Myanmar started operating at full speed frantically. Longguo border, Yunhai Municipal Public Security Bureau. Zhao Jianguo had just properly settled Luo Ying and other girls. He walked into an encrypted communication room alone and connected to the secure line directly to senior officials. The screen lit up, and an old man appeared on it. With a serious look on his face. "Report the situation," the old man said concisely. Director Zhao took a deep breath and reported the info sent back by Li Feng in the most concise language possible. He focused on describing Luo Fei and how he single-handedly destroyed a warlord camp in a short time, killed over 100 armed personnel, and rescued hostages, which was inhumanly amazing. The old man on the other side of the screen listened to the report. His expression changed from initial seriousness to astonishment, then to shock and disbelief. "Are you sure Comrade Li Feng's report is true?" the old man asked in a deep voice, his tone full of caution. "Sir, based on Comrade Li Feng's consistent reliability and comprehensive judgment from the rescued hostages' condition, Luo Fei is indeed beyond the scope of common understanding," Director Zhao said in a firm tone. The old man was silent for a long time, tapping his fingers lightly on the table. His background is clean, ordinary family, ordinary work experience, no abnormal records before this. He only showed this ability this time because his biological sister was kidnapped, Director Zhao answered. The old man fell silent again. After a long time, he spoke slowly. "This matter is classified as top secret. All information about Luo Fei can only be accessed by necessary personnel." "Yes?" As for his action of returning to the park to rescue compatriots, the old man paused and gave tacit approval. "But through Comrade Li Feng, guide him as much as possible to reduce unnecessary casualties and damage. At the same time, collect as much core intelligence as possible about the Wang family and related criminal groups. This man is a sharp sword that can't be judged by common sense. If used well, it might cut open that poisonous abscess in northern Myanmar. If used poorly..." The old man didn't finish his sentence, but Team Zhao understood the risks and weight behind the words. "Understood. I will keep in touch with Comrade Li Feng. Report the progress to me any time. Comms out." Team Zhao leaned back in his chair and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. The sky outside the window was getting dark gradually. Chapter 17. Back to the industrial park. The truck was around 500 meters away from Jinhui International Industrial Park. It shut off the engine and stopped at a corner of the mountain Cole. The setting sun dyed the horizon into a stretch of orange-red twilight. Dense tropical vegetation rustled in the wind. Inside the cab, Li Feng pulled up the handbrake. He looked warily towards the industrial park through the windshield. On the passenger seat, Luo Fei was also silently staring ahead. What caught their attention were 3 black off-road vehicles that had just stopped near the park gate, plus a modified pickup truck welded with steel plates and mounted with a machine gun. Around 20 people in black combat uniforms, with excellent equipment and swift moves, were jumping off the vehicles. They were talking quickly with several park guards at the gate. These people moved sharply and competently. The weapons they carried were obviously far better than the old rifles used by the park guards. A few of them even carried long strip equipment that looked like rocket launchers. "They are from the Wang family." Li Feng lowered his voice with a solemn tone. "They move so fast. Looks like they are newly arrived reinforcements. There are quite a lot of them. Their equipment is also way better than the park guards." Luo Fei's eyes swept over that team, with no change on his face at all. "They just arrived. They haven't fully got the hang of the park situation yet." Luo Fei's voice was completely calm. Perfect time to take them all out at once. He reached into his pocket and pulled out Chatai's phone and handed it to Li Feng. "There are some communication records and transfer records inside that might be useful," Luo Fei said. "Keep it safe." Then he put his own phone into the backpack beside him and put that bank card into the wallet inside the backpack. Li Feng was stunned for a second. He knew Luo Fei was afraid they would get damaged during the fight. "What are you planning to do?" After Li Feng asked this, he looked again at those Wang family elites who were entering the park. Luo Fei unfastened his seatbelt, stretched his neck a little, which made a faint cracking sound. "Go through the main gate," he said concisely. "It's the fastest way." Li Feng opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but when he thought of Luo Fei's inhuman performance in the military camp, he swallowed the words back. In front of absolute strength and speed, a lot of regular tactics really seem unnecessary. Luo Fei pushed open the truck door and jumped off the truck. He didn't charge immediately, but just stood where he was, closed his eyes slightly, and adjusted his breathing, then turned his head to look at Li Feng, and gave one final instruction. I'll give you a signal when I'm done. You drive in then? Collect all usable evidence and valuables, then organize the people inside to evacuate. Li Feng nodded hard, understood. You must be careful. Luo Fei didn't say anything more. He turned around, facing the park gate 500 meters away. He bent his legs slightly, and the next moment, boom! The solid ground under his feet caved in sharply and burst into a web of cracks. It was like he had broken free of gravity's pull, turning into a blurry afterimage, rushing straight towards the park gate. This time he didn't deliberately hold back his movement. He wanted to rush into the enemy crowd at top speed, before they could react, and take them out in close combat. A distance of 500 meters might take an average person a minute to run, but it only took Luo Fei a few breaths. The plants along the way were blown flat to both sides by the violent air current. Dust trailed behind him, forming a straight line of smoke. What's that sound? At the park gate, a Wang family elite who was lighting a cigarette seemed to hear an unusual noise. He looked up alertly towards the mountain coal. He vaguely saw a blurry shadow, rushing towards them at extreme speed. It was so fast it didn't look human, enemy attack. His pupils shrank sharply. He threw away his cigarette and roared at the top of his lungs while raising the rifle in his hand. But his warning and the movement of raising his gun were way too slow compared to Luo Fei's speed. The words had just left his mouth when Luo Fei's figure had already rushed to less than 50 meters away from the gate. Shoot now. Another man who looked like a small leader shouted sharply and raised his gun as well. The 7 or 8 elite Wang family fighters gathered at the gate, and several park guards reacted immediately. They all raised their guns. Rat-tat bung bung bung. But to all the shooters, a scene that made their scalps tingle unfolded. That figure moved through the bullet hail in a way that defied the laws of physics, dodging at high speed. Most bullets hit nothing but thin air, kicking up clouds of dust. A few bullets seemed to hit the target, but it was like hitting a thick steel plate, and ricocheted right off. That guy's speed didn't slow down at all. Monster. It's that monster from the video. One park guard who had seen the surveillance footage was scared out of his wits and screamed at the top of his lungs. His scream made the Wang family elites jolt, but they were well trained, so they didn't completely panic. Get the rocket launcher ready. The small leader roared urgently, but it was already too late. A 50-meter distance was nothing for Luo Fei. He could cover it in the blink of an eye. Just as the elite carrying the rocket launcher turned around and tried to take aim, Luo Fei's figure was already like he had, teleported right to the edge of the crowd. He didn't go for the targets at the very front. Instead, he was like a tiger bursting into a flock of sheep and charged straight into the dense crowd. Bang. The first Wang family elite he ran into felt like he had just been hit head-on by a speeding truck. Anyone who's had a run of extremely bad luck before would know exactly what this feels like. His chest caved in instantly, and he went flying off his feet backward, knocking over the 2 guys behind him. Luo Fei didn't stop for a second moving through the crowd. He reached out both hands. Crack, crack. 2 crisp cracks sounded at the same time. The 2 elites on his sides who just turned their guns had their gun-wielding wrists crushed by Luo Fei, who took the guns. 2 rifles ended up in Luo Fei's hands, but he didn't even bother using them. Guns are actually less useful to him than cold weapons or his own fists and feet. He flicked both wrists. The 2 rifle bodies twisted and deformed instantly. He used them as 2 short iron rods and swung them horizontally. Thud, thud. 2 charging Wang family elites got hit in the head by the deformed rifle bodies and collapsed limply on the spot. Luo Fei tossed the scrap metal aside casually. His gaze locked onto the back of the crowd, where the elite who just set up the rocket launcher was panickedly trying to take aim. He moved in a flash, ducking the bayonet stabbing at him from the side, and appeared right in front of the rocket launcher operator instantly. Under the guy's terrified, disbelieving gaze, Luo Fei's left hand shot out like lightning, grabbed the front launch tube of the rocket launcher, and lifted it upward. Whoosh! The rocket shot out with a long flame trail, flew diagonally upward, barely missing Luo Fei's body, drawing an arc through the air, and finally landed far in the forest behind the park. It exploded with a deafening boom, and flames shot up into the sky. Meanwhile, Luo Fei's right hand was formed into a knife edge and sliced lightning fast at the rocket operator's throat. Ah! The elite's eyes went wide, and he made weird gurgling sounds in his throat. The rocket launcher in his hand slipped down weakly Luo Fei flicked it up with his toe, kicking the falling rocket launcher toward the side, at an enemy trying to raise his gun to aim. The heavy rocket launcher slammed right into the guy's chest, sending him flying backward. At the same time, Luo Fei's gaze fell on the inner side of the gate. At the few Burmese machetes on the weapon rack, their blades were thick and heavy, and their edges glinted with cold light. He moved again, whirling past the weapon rack like a tornado. He grabbed out with both hands, and 2 machetes were already in his grasp. "It starts now," Luo Fei mumbled to himself in a low voice. There wasn't a single trace of emotion in his voice. He moved, holding the 2 machetes, and charged back into the enemy ranks again. Every time he swung the blades, they sliced precisely across the enemy's vital points. Luo Fei's figure darted and flickered through the crowd, so fast that all you could see was a blurry shadow. Even though the Wang family elites were well-trained and fearless in battle, but in front of this terrifying power and speed that completely defied all common sense, their resistance was totally useless and feeble. The fight was completely one-sided. More than 20 Wang family elites, plus the original 17 or so park guards at the gate, had mostly fallen in just 2 minutes. The few remaining guys finally completely broke down. They dropped their weapons, crying and screaming as they tried to run back to their cars or flee deeper into the park. But Luo Fei didn't give them the chance. The glint of the blades followed them everywhere. The last elite who tried to climb into the driver's seat of the off-road vehicle had his collar grabbed from behind by Luo Fei and dragged out forcefully. A blade swept past. The scream cut off abruptly. The edges of the 2 blades in his hand were already covered in tiny nicks and rolled edges. The tracksuit he was wearing was once again soaked through with enemy blood. He also had a lot of blood splattered on his face. He looked around. There were no standing enemies left at the entrance area, but it seemed that from the park buildings in the distance came terrified shouts and commotion. Clearly the guards and hostages inside had heard the intense gunshots, explosions, and screams at the entrance. Luo Fei ignored that. He walked over to the modified pickup truck and tore a clean piece of canvas from the passenger seat to wipe the blood off his hands and face. Then he turned toward the corner of the mountain call and waved in the direction where the truck was hidden. He knew Li Feng must be watching this side closely. Sure enough, a few minutes later, that military truck turned on its headlights and slowly drove out from behind the mountain col and stopped in front of the park gate. Li Feng stopped the truck and jumped down. Looking at the scene at the entrance, even though he was mentally prepared, his pupils still contracted involuntarily. He forced himself to look away and looked at Luo Fei standing in the middle, all taken care of. Li Feng's voice was a little hoarse. He nodded and tossed the 2 machetes in his hand to the ground. There should still be a small number of guards inside. Some may try to resist in the chaos, not sure. You go collect evidence and valuables. I'll go inside to clear out the remaining guards, then organize everyone to evacuate. Li Feng took a deep breath to push down the discomfort in his heart and nodded. All right, be careful. He knew the situation inside the park could be more complicated, especially with hundreds of panicked hostages who may have been long-term abused and brainwashed. Luo Fei didn't say anything more, turned around and strode into the park. His figure quickly disappeared inside the park. Li Feng watched his back disappear and immediately took action. He first checked the bodies of those Wang family elites to collect useful communication devices, IDs, and intel. Then he quickly walked toward the building in the park that houses the CEO's office. He knew this was the most likely place to store the core accounts and transaction records of this criminal den, as well as a large amount of looted cash and valuables. Sporadic gunshots, shouts, and cries rang out in the park, then quickly fell silent, indicating the internal cleanup was also underway. About half an hour later, Luo Fei's figure reappeared on the main open ground of the park. Behind him, people gradually started coming out from each of the buildings. Chapter 18, We're Taking You Home. The first ones to walk out were a few bold, young men with fear and confusion on their faces. Then came more men and women. Most of them were in rags and sallow-faced. Their eyes were either numb or filled with fear. Many had old and new scars all over their bodies. They supported each other as they walked to the empty yard. The number kept growing, 100, 200, 300. Finally, almost 500 people gathered in a dense crowd. Luo Fei stood in front of the crowd. His gaze swept across each haggard, abused face. His voice reached everyone's ears. The people who kidnapped you and abused you are all dead. You're free now. Whoever wants to go home, follow us. 3 simple sentences. After a short moment of dead silence, no one knows who let out the first whimper. Then crying quickly spread through the crowd. Nearly 500 people cried while hugging each other. Luo Fei watched quietly and didn't rush them until Li Feng, carrying 2 bulging big backpacks, walked quickly out of the office building and whispered in his ear, "This is all I could find. There's also a big safe. I can't open it for now." No idea what's inside. Luo Fei glanced at the backpacks he was carrying and nodded. Then he turned to the crowd and spoke again, his voice drowning out the crying, "Quiet!" The crying gradually died down. Everyone looked at him with red eyes. Listen to instructions now. Anyone who can drive, step forward. Those who are relatively healthy and can help keep order, step forward. Children, women, and the injured get on vehicles first. We don't have enough vehicles. We'll use the park's vehicles and the cars those people drove here. We're taking you home. Soon, dozens of people who could drive and some fairly calm young adults stepped forward. Under Li Feng's quick organization, they began guiding the crowd in an orderly way to board all vehicles available in the park. Minibuses, vans, motorcycles, as well as the SUV Wangjia drove here and that pickup truck, plus the military truck they arrived in. We had over 40 vehicles in total. It might be a little crowded, but we had to fit everyone in. It was a bit chaotic at first. Luo Fei stood aside watching all this quietly. He didn't participate in the specific organization work. He had other things to do. He called out to Li Feng, who was busy working. Li Feng turned to report the local situation to his superior. Convoy scale. Estimated arrival time. Luo Fei added, also, where is Chakai's safe? Li Feng immediately knew Luo Fei wanted to get the park's core financial and evidence materials. He pointed at the tallest office building. There's a small lounge inside Chakai's office. The safe is in the lounge. Embedded in the wall. I don't know the password. You might need to blow it up or... I got it. Luo Fei cut him off to show he understood. He turned to get his backpack off the truck, then walked towards the office building. Luo Fei went straight to Chakai's office. As Li Feng told him, he pushed open the door of the inner lounge. It was messy inside. A large bed, a wardrobe, a dressing table, and a dark green, heavy-looking metal safe embedded in the wall. The safe door was tightly closed. It had a complex mechanical combination lock and electronic keypad on it. Luo Fei walked to the safe and looked it over. He stretched out his right hand, spread all 5 fingers, and pressed them on the thick metal door of the safe. His palm touched the cold metal. Then he curled his 5 fingers hard suddenly. His fingertips were like 5 steel drills, sinking deep into the metal door. Creak! The harsh sound of metal being forcefully twisted and deformed rang out in the lounge. Then Luo Fei pulled his 5 fingers back hard. Boom! The whole thick safe door was ripped off directly by his brute force. The inside of the safe was fully exposed. It had a lot of space inside, divided into several layers. The top layer was neatly stacked with stacks of banknotes from different countries in various colors. The middle layer had several thick file bags, as well as some scattered jewelry, watches, and other valuables. There were also several pistols and bullets. The bottom layer was bright yellow gold bars, arranged neatly one by one, reflecting the cold metal glow. Luo Fei didn't look carefully. Time was tight. He took off the backpack on his back, changed into his last set of clean sportswear, then put his wallet, phone, and charger into his pocket, dumped out other sundries, and started packing things into the backpack. He packed the file bags first. These might be important evidence. Then he packed wads of cash, all kinds of currencies mixed together, and stuffed them into the inner layers and gaps of the backpack. The backpack was filled up soon, bulging all over. The zipper could barely be closed, but more than half of the property in the safe was still left, mainly because there was too much cash and gold bars. Luo Fei frowned. He glanced around the lounge. His eyes fell on several folded, large canvas bags for luggage next to the bed. He walked over and grabbed the bags, returned to the safe, and continued packing. One bag was full, so he took the second, the third, and the fourth one, until all the valuable cash in the safe, gold bars, jewelry, and those file bags, were all packed into the backpack and the 4 large canvas bags. He completely ignored the pistols and bullets. The backpack and the 4 bags were all heavy, especially the bags with gold bars. The weight was astonishing. But for Luo Fei, Carrying them was no different from carrying a few clothes. He carried the backpack and 2 bags in one hand, and the remaining 2 bags in the other hand, turned and walked out of the lounge, and walked out of the office building. On the open ground outside, the boarding work was almost finished. Over 40 vehicles were like a long dragon, lined up in the yard. Every vehicle was packed with people. The roar of engines and the putter of motorcycles mixed together. It was especially noisy in the night. Li Feng was at the front of the vehicles, reporting something quickly over the phone, with a serious face. When he saw Luo Fei come out carrying lots of bags, he was stunned for a moment, then ended the call immediately, hurriedly walked over to greet them. Everything's packed up. Li Feng glanced at those bulging bags. Luo Fei grabbed his backpack and 4 canvas bags and tossed them all onto the passenger seat of the military truck. The heavy bags hit the seat with a dull thud. "You drive and lead the way," Luo Fei said to Li Feng. "Go meet up with our guys." "What about you?" Li Feng asked. Luo Fei's gaze swept across the long motorcade and finally landed on the end of the line. "I'll stay at the back," he said briefly. Li Feng got the message right away. The motorcade was way too long. The vehicles were in varying conditions, and the personnel were mixed. They couldn't risk something going wrong on the road. With Luo Fei bringing up the rear, he could handle any unexpected issue that popped up. "Got it." Li Feng didn't ask any more questions, turned around and hopped into the truck cab. He started the engine, honked the horn twice as the signal to set off. The lead car moved first, followed by the rest of the vehicles slowly starting up one by one. Luo Fei stayed where he was, watching the front of the motorcade drive out of the park gate, until the last few motorcycles at the end of the line were about to leave. He finally started walking, and followed the end of the motorcade at a leisurely pace. Night had fallen completely. The mountain roads in northern Myanmar were rough and hard to traverse. There were no streetlights, only car lights cutting through the dark. The motorcade wasn't moving very fast, but luckily the trip was surprisingly peaceful. No roadblocks stopped them along the way. No other armed forces harassed them either. Only the roar of engines and the sound of wheels rolling over gravel echoed through the quiet valley. Luo Fei followed at the end of the line. With steady steps, his eyes scanned the road, the forests on both sides and the surrounding darkness. His enhanced senses allowed him to pick up any tiny unusual sounds or movements. But aside from the wind, insect chirps, and occasional distant animal roars, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Maybe the Wang family hadn't had time to react yet, or maybe they were gathering their forces. But at least this road was clear for now tonight. The motorcade continued moving slowly. More than an hour passed slowly. The terrain up ahead started to look familiar. The outline of the mountains near the border was faintly visible under the dim starlight. The lead truck slowly stopped at a hidden valley fork in the road. The vehicles behind stopped one by one. The sound of engines gradually died down. This was the rendezvous point Li Feng had agreed on with his superiors, an unpopulated river valley area located on our side of the borderline. The motorcade had barely come to a complete stop when several bright searchlights suddenly turned on. In the darkness ahead, the light cut through the night, lighting up the area in front of the motorcade as bright as day. Right after that, hundreds of people in various uniforms, armed police, SWAT, border patrol, and plainclothes officers quickly and orderly emerged from hidden spots all around. They were holding riot shields and assault rifles in tight formation, immediately forming a defensive and escort formation. At the same time, more than 10 camouflage-painted military trucks, ambulances, and buses drove out from behind and stopped quietly outside the range of the lights. The high efficiency and thorough preparation made it obvious that the domestic side had been fully prepared for a long time. The compatriots in the cars were startled by the sudden bright light and formation, but soon when they saw the badges on the uniforms clearly and heard someone speaking through a loudspeaker in clear standard Mandarin, "Compatriots, welcome home. Please stay in order. Get off the bus one by one and accept inspection and resettlement." Everyone realized they had really made it home. They were finally safe. A huge rush of ecstasy and the exhaustion of finally being able to relax hit everyone all at once. Cries broke out again, but this time they were tears of joy, wails of relief after surviving a disaster. Li Feng was the first to jump off the truck. He walked quickly towards Team Zhao from the escort team to hand over quickly and report the situation in a low voice. Luo Fei stood in the shadow at the end of the motorcade, watching this scene quietly, watching as the compatriots were carefully helped out of the worn-out vehicles, watching them step onto land that truly belonged to their motherland, watching medical staff check on the injured, watching staff hand out water and food. Chapter 19. Wang Family Manor. Luo Fei! Li Feng's voice came from up ahead. He walked over quickly, with Team Zhao following beside him. Zhao Jianguo looked at Luo Fei, with eyes full of shock and respect. Great work, Comrade Luo Fei. Captain Zhao gave a salute. In a solemn tone, on behalf of all rescued compatriots, thank you. Luo Fei waved his hand and said nothing. The Wang family's case isn't over yet. The threat to my family still exists. The stuff in the truck. Luo Fei pointed to the truck's passenger seat. Those bulging bags and backpacks are evidence and recovered assets. You guys handle them? Got it. Captain Zhao and Li Feng nodded in unison. Then Captain Zhao spoke again. I'll stay at the scene to organize and coordinate. I'll have someone drive you and Li Feng back to rest first. Soon a black SUV was carrying Luo Fei and Li Feng away from the bustling, noisy area. The driver was a quiet, young, armed police officer. Li Feng sat in the passenger seat. Luo Fei sat in the back seat. It was very quiet inside the car. Luo Fei leaned back in his seat with his eyes closed, but he wasn't asleep. His mind was quickly going over everything that happened today. We must root out the problem completely. The Wang family is a venomous snake hiding in the shadows. If we don't crush its head and vital parts completely, it could strike at any time and take a vicious bite at his family. That's something he will never allow. It was a little past 9 p.m. The SUV slowly pulled into the Yunhai City Public Security Bureau compound. The yard was brightly lit. Lots of vehicles and people were still coming and going. It looked pretty busy. The car stopped in front of the office building. Li Feng got out of the car first. Luo Fei also opened his eyes and got out after him. The two walked into the office building. The lobby was still bustling. Phones ringing, footsteps and chatter filled the air. Many uniformed and plainclothes officers were hurrying about. They looked at Li Feng and Luo Fei with curious glances. News of the large-scale rescue operation at the border had already spread here. A plainclothes man walked quickly over to greet them. It was Deputy Captain Liu of the Criminal Investigation Unit, whom Luo Fei had met when he reported the case earlier. Li Feng, Comrade Luo Fei. Deputy Captain Liu's voice was excited and a little tired. Great work. Captain Zhao is coordinating at the border. He asked me to meet you here. I've heard all about what happened. Great job. He clapped Li Feng hard on the shoulder, then turned to Luo Fei and looked him up and down with a complicated expression. Captain Liu. He nodded. As a greeting. Then asked directly, where are my sister and the others? They're in the second-floor lounge. Follow me. Deputy Captain Liu immediately composed himself, turned around and led the way. They went up the stairs to the second floor, turned into a relatively quiet corridor. At the end was a room marked lounge. The door was slightly ajar. Deputy Captain Liu gently pushed the door open. Inside the small room, Luo Ying and her 3 roommates were huddled together on a long sofa. They had already changed into clean clothes provided by the police and brushed their hair simply. They were in much better spirits than before. When they heard the door open, the 4 girls looked up at the same time. When Luo Ying saw Luo Fei standing at the door, her eyes lit up instantly. Brother. She almost jumped up and threw herself into Luo Fei's arms, wrapping her arms tightly around her brother's waist, pressing her face hard against his chest. Brother, I was so scared. Her tearful voice came from against Luo Fei's chest, and her body was shaking. Luo Fei's body stiffened slightly. Then he raised his hand, his movements a little stiff, but he finally gently placed it on his sister's back, patting her softly again and again. It's okay, Xiaoying, I'm here. His voice was gentle, totally different from the cold, murderous tone he used during the earlier violent operation. It's all over. Luo Ying's shaking gradually calmed down. Her cries turned into quiet sobs. Chen Yu, Zhang Yue, and Liu Tian also stood up, watching the hugging brother and sister. Their eyes reddened again. They felt both envious of Luo Ying and sincerely grateful to Luo Fei. Thank you, Brother Luo Fei. Chen Yu plucked up her courage and thanked him quietly. Zhou Yeke and Liu Tian nodded along, their voices choked with sobs. Luo Fei nodded slightly at them. You all went through a lot, too. He gently patted his sister's back. Okay, Xiaoying, let go first. Captain Liu still has things to take care of. Luo Ying let go embarrassedly and stepped back, but she still held onto Luo Fei's sleeve with one hand. She lifted her tear-streaked face, looked at Deputy Captain Liu, and timidly asked Officer Liu, "Can we go home now? I miss my mom and dad." The other three girls immediately cast eager, expectant looks their way. A gentle smile spread across Deputy Captain Liu's face. He kept his tone as casual as possible. "Of course you can. All of you are victims. We've finished taking your statements. You can go home whenever you want." The four girls immediately lit up with joy. Deputy Captain Liu went on, "But your ID cards, phones, wallets, and other personal items are all missing. Plus, it's so late right now, and you all need to get some proper rest." He looked over at Luo Fei. "Comrade Luo Fei, my suggestion is you stay in the city tonight. Get a good night's sleep, and we'll arrange for you to go home tomorrow. Does that work for you?" Luo Fei glanced at her little sister and her roommate's tired, pale faces, and nodded. They really did need rest. Plus, with their IDs missing, heading back right away would be a hassle. "Please arrange accommodation for us, Captain Liu." "No problem," Luo Fei replied. Deputy Captain Liu agreed readily, then turned to shout at the door, "Xiao Zhou." A sharp young policewoman appeared at the door in response. "Take these girls to the city bureau's guest house. Assign them clean rooms and take good care of them," Deputy Captain Liu ordered. "Yes." Policewoman Shoshu nodded and gave Luo Ying and the others a friendly smile. "Hey girls, come with me. I'll show you where to rest." Luo Ying looked at her older brother hesitantly. Luo Fei patted the back of her hand gently. "Go with Officer Zhou and get a good sleep. I'll take you home tomorrow?" At the word home, Luo Ying felt a lot more at ease and nodded obediently. She glanced at her brother again and mumbled, "You get some rest too, bro." Luo Fei responded. The four girls followed Xiao Zhou out of the break room. Only Luo Fei, Li Feng, and Deputy Captain Liu remained in the room. The room went quiet. Deputy Captain Liu looked at Luo Fei, hesitated to speak, but finally said something, his tone full of emotion. "Comrade Luo Fei, we really owe you big time this time. I can't even put how grateful we are into words." Luo Fei shook his head. "No need. I just did what I had to." He turned his gaze to Li Feng and changed the subject abruptly, his tone calm and direct. "Officer Li, how much do you know about the Wang family's exact location?" Li Feng and Deputy Captain Liu exchanged a look. Deputy Captain Liu led them to his office, walked over to a desk in the corner, and picked up a folded map from it. He spread the map out on the desk. It was marked with pens of different colors, with lots of symbols and place names. Some spots even had question marks on them. Li Feng pointed his finger at a spot deep in northern Myanmar on the map. A red circle marked an area there, with Wang Family Manor written next to it. Li Feng gestured at the map with his finger. "It's in a valley in the Mengpaya area of northern Myanmar. The terrain is rugged and strategic, easy to defend and hard to attack, according to intel. The manor itself has extremely tight security. Private militias are stationed there full-time, and they're well-equipped. Plus, the base of Warlord Moheng, who is closely allied with the Wang family, is only less than 20 kilometers away from the manor. If the manor is ever attacked, Moheng's troops will most likely come to support them quickly." He tapped his finger again on another spot marked as Moheng's base. Deputy Captain Liu added, "Moheng's forces are even stronger than Su Wen's. He has almost 1,000 armed troops at his base. They even have armored vehicles and a small number of artillery pieces. The Wang family gives him huge amounts of money and resources every year in exchange for protection and territory." Luo Fei's gaze landed on the two marked red dots on the map. "Do you have the interior layout of the manor? Where does Wang Tianshong usually stay?" Luo Fei asked. Li Feng shook his head and smiled bitterly. "It's really hard for us to get the exact interior layout. Wang Tianshong is extremely cautious. His whereabouts are always unknown. But based on his habits and the intel we have, he spends most of his time in this manor, especially when he's handling important matters, or feels like he's in danger. There might even be secret rooms in the manor." Deputy Captain Liu looked at Luo Fei and warned him in a serious tone. "Comrade Luo Fei, I know you're extremely capable, but the Wang family has operated here for many years and are deeply rooted. Their manor in particular has been fortified to be completely impenetrable. Besides, if we make too much of a commotion, we will alert Moheng's troops. It may even draw the attention of Myanmar's government forces or other factions. The situation will get extremely complicated and could even trigger border conflicts." Luofei stayed silent. His fingers tapped lightly on the table unconsciously, yet his gaze never left the spot on the map, where the Wang family's manor was circled in red pen. He was weighing his options rapidly in his head, but his family's safety cannot have any hidden risks. The Wang family is like a time bomb planted, right next to his family. No one knows when it might explode. The best defense is a good offense. We need to completely wipe out the source of the threat. And for any target he sets his sights on, no fortress can actually keep it safe. I got it. Luofei spoke calmly. He took his phone out of his pocket. He opened the digital map on his phone and turned the screen towards Li Feng. Mark the exact location for me. Luofei's tone left no room for argument. Li Feng looked into Luofei's eyes. He knew Luofei had already made his decision. Any persuasion would be useless. Li Feng took a deep breath and said nothing more. He took the phone and compared it with the hand-drawn map on the table to search carefully on the digital map. He zoomed in and finally located the entrance to a valley and marked a spot nearby. Then he used his finger to draw a circle around the general area on the screen. This is the place. There are hidden sentries at the valley entrance. The specific situation inside is unknown, but it is definitely heavily guarded. Li Feng handed the phone back to Luofei and gave him a final warning. Be extremely careful. Luofei took the phone, glanced at the lone mark on the screen. Then he put away the phone and stuffed it into his pocket. Wait for my message. Those were the only 4 words he said. He turned around and walked out of the lounge. Li Feng and Deputy Team Lu stood at the door, watching his figure disappear around the stair corner. The two stayed silent for a long time,